Welcome, welcome, welcome. Doing our little exercises that Mindy was sharing with me before to kind of get me going. What exactly are these?
So this is called the water splash, Ken.
Okay.
And we use that, do it 10, 20 seconds just to get your brain focused. If you ever feel like you have a little brain fog or you want to really focus, just do some quick water splashes like that. Make believe you're in the pool and you're splashing someone right near you. And if you want to get fancy, you can go like this.
Cool.
It's called water splash. It gets the neurons in your brain starting to work. So
I think that'll do better for me than coffee sometimes in the morning for sure.
Okay, you can try it. Let me know how it goes.
So
Absolutely.
welcome everyone. Mindy Stern is here, one of my fellow LinkedIn rock stars from Brenda's calls. And we were having a chat before and actually created a poll in advance of this about resilience and job search. And I think, Mindy, I think you did a poll also about this. And I don't think the results surprised us too much, or they didn't surprise me. What about you in terms of what you saw with some of the results?
No, absolutely. We're going to talk about the results of the poll as we get through, because there are specific pieces of resilience that I want to talk about today. Actually, one of my favorite topics. So I want to thank you so much for letting me speak about resilience, because I just think it's one of the most critical things that we can do to help job seekers get to the next level for themselves.
Let me just show you a couple of comments that came in. I'm looking for work right now and struggling, so happy I saw this. Michelle Daly, thanks for hosting the topic. So I think there's definitely going to be some, I know for me, I still struggle with resiliency, even though I'm not necessarily working. And I think part of it maybe goes to the whole idea of, I don't know if it's imposter syndrome. I don't know if it's fear of failure. I'd love to get kind of your sense about what that actually means.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just define resilience real quick, right? So resilience is the ability to bounce back when things don't go as planned. Resilience is not the absence of any kind of distress. It is the ability to bounce back. And what happens is things don't go as planned. That's life, right? Nothing goes exactly as you plan it to do. So what we're going to talk about today is how we can build our resilience muscle, if you will. What can we do to help ourselves be even more resilient? And resilience is especially important for job seekers, because if you think about it, every day they're putting themselves out there, and they know they may get rejected. They may know they may get ghosted. They know they may get ignored. There's so many things that can happen to job seekers. And so for them especially, resilience is a critical element to getting from job seeker to job winner. And that's what we want to do. And you and I help job seekers every day. So we know how important the mindset is as we go through all the tools that we help job seekers with. But the mindset is number one. And just last week, I started with a new client, also a job seeker, who said, I'm very uncomfortable asking for recommendations. And I'm really uncomfortable trying to network with the alumni from my school. And I'm really uncomfortable telling people that I'm looking for a job. And yeah, that's outside your comfort level. And it reminded me of something. I follow Seth Godin, who has some really interesting pieces of information. I read him every day. And he said that growth usually feels risky. And there's a reason for that. It's the mind protecting us from the fear of failure, right? So it feels risky. But if you want to grow, sometimes you need to put yourself out there.
And I know Camille said over here it's exhausting, which I can definitely relate to that, because the first time when I realized I was making a decision to leave the workforce and kind of go out and do things, I had so much self-doubt. I was so scared. I was like, what if? And then it's kind of like what I say on LinkedIn, jump in the water is fine. You've got nothing to lose by trying. And I tell a lot of job seekers now, this is an opportunity. Try out other things. Maybe you want to do some consulting for a while. Maybe you have services you can offer, but it's something you may not think about, because there's such a mindset that, well, I lost my job, I have to get another job. Or it was about me. What happened? And it's such a negative mindset. And that's why the resiliency is, okay, it happened, you move on.
Exactly. So I had very similar feelings to you, right? I loved my job. I was great at it. I was head of human resources for a very long time for Sterling National Bank. And when the layoff happened, I was shocked. I was part of the transition team. You know, I was there planning alongside with the CEO of how we're going to transition and move everyone to the new company. And then all of a sudden one day, you know, someone called me into the office. Now I had been doing layoffs all along, and all of a sudden I was in that position, and it never occurred to me that that was going to happen. But you do what you have to do. And that's when I started, you know, thinking about building my own company, and obviously did that. That was 9 years ago. So it's, but I want to give you some real tools, and everyone who's listening, some real tools of things that you can do to build resiliency, because we all have some of it. We just need to build on it. Okay. The first one, number one, is building confidence. So resilient people are confident that even if there's a setback, they know that failure is just another step towards the next success, right? Mm-hmm. And in the poll that you sent out, Ken, it was when a task doesn't go as planned, it affects my self-confidence. You had 74 responses, and 77% said, yeah, sometimes it does affect my self-confidence. We all get affected with our self-confidence. So I have a solution for this lack of self-confidence that happens when bad things happen. And I call it my high dive solution. I'm no different than anyone else. I've experienced fear of growth so many times. The first time I presented to a live audience, I was terrified. The first time I spoke in front of the board of directors, I was terrified. The first time I had to lay off one of my team members, that was a scary thing for me. So what do I pull on? And we all need to have something to pull on. I'm going to tell you my story, and then you can use it as well, or you can use your own. So I was about 11, maybe 12 years old, and I spent my summer learning how to dive. And I really wanted to get on that high dive board. That high dive board was huge in my local pool. And so I joined this team, the swim team, and I practiced all summer. I had to get to a certain level before they would even let me get up there. I'll never forget the day when the chief, the coach, the instructor said to me, okay, you've passed all your levels, go. You can try the high dive for the first time. I'm climbing those stairs. I can still feel the terror in my throat. It felt like it was 100 stairs up to that high dive. I get up there. I'm gripping the handrails. I'm looking down, and fear is just gripping me. I can't move. My legs won't move. And I said, I can't do this. I can't even jump. No, let's dive. And then I heard from below, I heard all the team members, they're all cheering me. Come on, Mindy, you can do it. You can do it. And I just closed my eyes and I jumped. And I laugh when you talk about, come on in, the water's fine, because after I jumped, it became easier. It wasn't a beautiful jump, believe me. It was just a jump. It wasn't a great dive. But I did it. And it was taking that first step that really helped me to build my confidence that, you know what, I can do this again. And I got out and I went back up. And of course, it became easier and easier as I did it each time. And so now whenever I come to a point of time when I'm fearful of something, and it doesn't have to be big, like, you know, talking in front of 1,000 people. I had anxiety before our call today, Ken, because I'm wondering.
Me too.
Will the technology work, right? Will my internet hold? Is the computer going to crash? All things that I have no control over, right? But I always think about that high dive, and I call it my high dive solution. If I could do that, I can do other things too. And so I close my eyes, I click, and it worked. Maybe it wouldn't have worked, but we would have figured something out, right?
Yeah.
And so I recommend that everyone have a high dive solution in their mind. Think about something that you have done in the past. What obstacle did you overcome, right? Number one. What personal qualities do you have that helped you cope with that situation so that you can go back and build on that and build on that confidence? And then what resources or support did you have that helped, you know, did you use to overcome that obstacle? Those are the kinds of things that we can use to build our confidence level, thinking about how we've overcome obstacles in the past.
I'll give you an example of an obstacle, which absolutely, to this day, I hate making certain types of phone calls or contacting people. about things, whether it's a service or something that's not working well. And I dread the call because I know they're going to sell me something, or they know they're going to try to do something.
Yeah.
And I want to get on and off the call as soon as possible, but I have to make the call. And so I dread it. I think to myself, am I going to make it today? Am I going to make it tomorrow? No, I'm doing another day, not a big deal. And then once you do it, it's like, oh my God, this was not so hard. But it's leading up to that. And we've all had to make those calls, whether it's a problem with a bill or a doctor or something. And you lead up to that, and there's so much anxiety. And I get anxiety about a lot of things like that. Even now, I'm thinking about all these stupid tasks I have to do that at the end of the day mean absolutely nothing. But I'm a worrywart about that.
Yeah. And so a lot of us worry about things that are out of our control, right? You can't control if the we'll call them the associate on the other end of the line is going to be smart and understand what you need and kind and help you through whatever your issue is.
Right.
Or if you're going to get someone who's the first day on the job and you can hear is reading a script. Okay, I'm here to help you. What is your problem, sir? And how is your day going? You don't know who you're going to get. That's out of your control. So it's up to us to figure out what we can do to, feel strong enough to get our point across, number one. And number two, trying to get to some resolution.
And that this is very true. And it's true. A lot of people go through the same thing. And we talk about support. We both run networking groups. We both run job support groups. And it's as much about that support level because you're not alone. And I think knowing that it doesn't make your specific situation better, but it makes the fact you have a family, and I know Brenda talks about having a family. We're all kind of a family in that way. One thing I've tried to do with those calls is I try to do these calls first thing in the morning, get it out of the way. Maybe make one call today, one call another day. So at least it's not hanging over my head, because it will be. And then it's hard. And once you get in that mindset, even though I may lose sleep the night before worrying about that first call, once you do it, you still feel better.
Yeah. And I like to have a checklist. So I love it when I can check something off that I've done that I didn't really want to do. That's like a pat on my back saying, done. Don't have to think about it anymore. But you bring up the social networking part of it, and that's number two. So number one is building confidence. Number two is having a social support network, right? Mm-hmm. That's a group of people or a person who you feel comfortable going to or asking for support or brainstorming when a situation gets difficult. So I'm going to ask the group here, or maybe you can ask the group, just a yes or no answer. Do you have at least one person you trust enough to go to when you're struggling with some situation? And if you could just put a yes or no in the chat, that would be great. Do you have at least one person that you trust enough to go to when you're struggling?
And I think the trust cuts both ways. Someone who will be honest with you too, not just tell you what you want to hear.
Oh yeah, absolutely. But sometimes just the brainstorming of the solutions helps to, bring other things to light, and you get to think about things in a different way. So I'm seeing some yeses. I say yes, thankfully, and I'm hoping it's more than one, but one is great. Excellent. Yeah. Excellent.
Yes.
So you cannot face every challenge alone. It's just too hard. And there are too many challenges. This is the life we're living, brings challenges on a daily basis. It's not like you can say, well, today I'm not going to have any challenges. There will be challenges. We have to expect them, and we have to be prepared for them. So having someone in a social network that can help you, that you can brainstorm with, that you feel comfortable with, that is number two. And if you think about my story, when I heard those other kids cheering for me and saying, go, Mindy, you can do it, that's when I had the nerve to jump off that high dive. I probably would have gotten down eventually, but it did help to know that people were cheering me on. So yes, it's very important. A social network is really, really important.
And I think you also have to make sure that you celebrate all your wins. A win is not a job necessarily. A win is not. It's something that has got you in the right mindset, because it could be a little thing. And I think that's so important, because if it's an all or nothing thing, then you're just shooting yourself in the leg.
Oh, I am all about supporting small successes. So getting an interview is not a small success. That's a huge success. It doesn't have to be my goal. So you're going to have short-term goals and long-term goals. Your long-term goal is, yes, I want to get a new job. Great. But there's so many short-term goals in the middle, right?
So this is a question. When one person isn't available, what should you go? And that's a very good question, because we're all busy, we all have things going on, and maybe someone can't get back to you right away, and it's life. But you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket, so to speak. There are people that you want to be able to trust, and you build off those relationships, because there are more people than you realize that are out there that will be willing to help. It's just a question of kind of putting yourself out there too.
And that's why it's so important to build those social networks before we need them, right? Mm-hmm. Build bridges before we need them. It would be very short-sighted if we built them only when we need them. So building bridges and helping people, giving of yourself and helping other people is also a very great way to build support network, and having more than one person around that you can ask. I know that if I was having a situation, I would feel comfortable, even just posting it to a couple of close peers on LinkedIn. I would do that, right? If it was appropriate. So having those kind of people around that you trust, who you worked with in the past, that's really important. It's a really important part of, having resilience and social support. Other thing I want to talk about is reframing. Mm-hmm. Okay. So a lot of us have some negative self-talk that we tell ourselves all the time. Mm-hmm. One simple way to build confidence is to reframe issues more positively. And so the way we explain setbacks to ourselves can either increase or decrease your self-confidence. So when I hear people putting themselves down and saying, oh, I'm never going to get that job, or, oh, I'm not qualified enough, so I'm not even going to try, or my resume is good enough, or I'm not going to try to network with people because I've had a bad experience in the past. We need to help people to reframe their thinking. So instead of saying things like, oh, I'm such an idiot, or I'm such a loser, or I can't get anything right, change the way you speak to yourself and be kind to yourself, just like you're kind to other people. And positive self-talk sounds like, hey, people make mistakes. It's embarrassing. I'll learn from it and I'll do better in the future. It's all how you speak to yourself. So we have to help people to reframe when they come up with when they come up with negative self-talk. Very easy to bring yourself down. You need to reframe it. So reframing is critical. And in the poll that I put out, it was when working on a project, I get distracted. I want to say derailed, but distracted sometimes is derailed if I encounter an obstacle. So that also got 77% said sometimes. Nobody, 0 said never. This happens all the time. We're working on a project. I'm currently creating a course for a bunch of people I'm coaching. And I need to focus. I can't be distracted by things that come up. But things happen, right? The computer goes down. I need to be distracted. I need to get off of my, whatever I was focused on and go fix it, right? That can't derail you. You've got to be able to come back and refocus. So thinking about reframing and saying, okay, this is going to be an issue. Here's my obstacle. I'm going to work to fix it. I'm going to get on with Geek Squad. I'm going to, reboot or whatever I'm going to do to help me. And then I'm going to refocus. Super, super important to reframe how you speak to yourself. Changing the inner narrative. I like what Terrence just said, changing the inner narrative. That's right. Reframing. Yep. That's what is important. Camille asked, what is reframing? So I think I explained it. I'll do it one more time. It's changing the way you speak to yourself. It's stopping yourself when you're starting to say negative things. Oh, I'm so clumsy. I just tripped. And I'm so clumsy. I'm going to do it again. No, I tripped because there was a stone in my path, and I'm going to be more watchful in the future. I'm going to be mindful. I'm going to learn from it. And I love Nelson Mandela had a great, great quote that I love. I use all the time. And he said, I never lose. I either win or learn. That's a great quote. right? And that's the mindset. I never lose. I either win or learn.
I would say one thing about distracting. It is okay to have distractions if they're for a certain amount of time. There is nothing wrong with saying, I need to take some me time, to take an hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, to do whatever I need to do, and then I'll be in a different mindset. You know, it's really hard when you're doing something when you have lots of stuff going on. And when I was actually during the pandemic and had meeting after meeting after meeting and talking to people left and right, I would block out 2 or 3 hours a day when I was out of the office, when I wasn't out of the office per se, but I could not be reached. And I would do whatever I felt like doing. And I think that's what you job seekers have. It's a full-time thing, but it doesn't mean 40 hours, 9 to 5. It's whatever works for you.
Yes. 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 I love that. And it brings me to my next point. It is great to be resilient and to be up and helping other people and using your network and all those great things. But what's super important is also you need to know your own body. You need to know your own brain and when it's necessary to recharge. And that's what you're talking about, Kenneth, is recharging, yes, absolutely. Right? So being resilient is also having the ability to persevere in the face of adversity and knowing when to recharge and recognizing what we need to do. So for me, it might be, taking a walk outside, but for someone else, it might be journaling or exercising or meditating, or meeting with friends or so many different things, going swimming, whatever it is that recharges you is what you need to be focused on. What can I do to recharge? I've just had a tough couple of hours. I need to recharge, right? And maybe, it's different day to day, or maybe it's based on what the situation is. I may need to recharge after our call today. I don't know. But what you need to be in touch with your body and your brain to know when it's time to recharge.
Well, when you're in job search, and someone told me this a long time ago, what they did is they started doing closet cleaning and drawer cleaning just to have a clean and safe environment. And it felt that there was less stuff going on around. So to have that clean environment, whether it's a digital cleanup, going through folders and things, or going through drawers or clothes, it's part of how you feel about things. And that's a different part of it. I mean, we've all been there. And I've been in job search too, and I've had my pity parties, and I've done my leave me alone and all that stuff, and then you get back on. But I think the part of it is knowing, I know enough about me to know certain things, and I think everyone has to find that right point, that place that works for them. And, again, speaking about being an entrepreneur, it's very overwhelming, and we don't have an on-off switch all the time. I know what I've tried to do is give myself some vacation time and some self-care time, but I have to be on all the time. And sometimes I need an afternoon nap sometimes. I'm the first person to admit it.
Wow.
Or I need something. I think we also don't all eat well. Those of us that are entrepreneurs and the like, how many times you're sitting at your desk and you're having crackers and cheese and this and that, and the next thing you know, you haven't had meals. And then it's like 7 o'clock at night and I haven't eaten all day. And that's, believe it or not, a big part of it is having a routine, whatever that routine is.
Yeah. So I want to address, I think I saw Camille was asking about entrepreneurs.
What about entrepreneurs and life coach? Yes.
Okay. So yes, Camille, thank you for asking the question. Listen, both Kenneth and I are entrepreneurs. I don't have a group around me helping me every day. And so critical that we have the routine that Kenneth was talking about of what I know my routine and when I'm most focused, which is always early in the morning, probably way earlier than most people like to focus. But my best focus time is in the morning. I know that for a long time. I also know if I don't eat 3 meals a day, I'm not my best. I also know if I don't sleep well, I'm not my best. But Camille, if you're just starting out, I'll tell you one thing that helped me a lot. When I first started, I actually brought on my own board of directors. Mm-hmm. Keep in mind, I came from a bank where board of directors was everything. And I used my board of directors. I made sure that I had a bunch of different people on that I trusted and knew. I had a lawyer on my board of directors. I had a marketing person on my board of directors. I had someone who who I trusted, who knew technology, because I had to build everything from a nothing. I had to build a website. I don't know how to do that. And so I brought on these people who did it out of the goodness of their hearts. There was no money involved, just to help me to get where I needed to be. For the first year or so, we held really quarterly meetings, and I used them as a sounding board also in the very beginning. It's very, very, very different when you transition from a corporate job where I was every single day of my life from 7 to 7 every single day, to, just doing your own thing. And so I recommend definitely having some kind of board of directors in place to at least to brainstorm, to help you with the details, So that's one thing that was very helpful to me.
I would also suggest not to overbook meetings and things in the beginning, because it's going to be really hard. Have a certain schedule in mind, because this is what worked for me after a while. I said to myself, I'm going to have meetings at certain times during the day. I'm going to do follow-ups at a certain time of the day. I'm going to do my business at a certain time of the day. Knowing stuff will happen, but it's kind of a general mindset that I have, so that during that time, I have a structure, as much as structure as possible. And I think, what happened in the beginning is I put a calendar. I created a Calendly, because I think you have to have everything in one place, what your events are and things. And I just say, here's my availability. People, as an entrepreneur, you're so afraid of missing the sale. You're so afraid that one call you make or don't make is going to really blow up. And you can't always have that mindset, because you just don't know if you put too much pressure on yourself.
I'm going to tell you something else I learned early on. Sometimes as an entrepreneur, you need to say no.
Absolutely.
Not all business is good business. And you need to remember and be true to yourself about what kind of business you want.
Yeah.
So early on, I was given a wonderful opportunity. And as soon as I met the individual who was offering this great opportunity, I knew it was not going to be a good fit at all. And I was at the time just doing HR. I was doing like HR support. Right. So the business originated of helping people in small businesses who needed to know what they needed to do in terms of keeping themselves legal and HR compliance. And he was asking me things that I could never, ever agree to. Why should I really pay these people what they're worth? They're lucky to have a job. So I knew right away that we were not going to be a good fit for each other. And I said no. It was very hard no for me, because it represented a big chunk of income. But my integrity has to come first.
But you bring up self-worth, which is a very important point. What are you worth? It's not so much, it's what would you value your time also, in addition to your salary? And you want to put a dollar figure on that, at least for yourself, especially, if you are an entrepreneur, or even if you're looking for a job, what you're worth. Just because the salary is X doesn't mean you have to accept the salary, because there's other considerations, or maybe you have a life balance that you want to think about. I mean, that's all part of self-worth. It's not as cut and dried as people may want to make it out to be. Now, I think it's important, like Sally just put in there, to define the difference between a good and bad client. I for now, I'm pretty good at determining the difference, but it's really about having some conversations. I'm going to chat with someone, and I'm going to be upfront about what I can and can't do. And usually I want someone that has some idea as to what they want, which will help me out. But sometimes you have to do hand holding. I mean, there's no one size fits all answer to this. And I think if you talk to 100 entrepreneurs, you'd probably get 100 different answers.
Well, I think for me, a good client is someone who is open to change, and not set in their ways. Someone who wants the value that I can provide, who understands the value I can provide, and is willing to do their part. And when we have our initial discovery call, I'm extremely transparent about what I do and what I can help them with and what I see as a need for them. And then I ask them what their goals are. And if it's not a match, I'm okay with saying, now I have many people I can refer you to,
right.
And maybe I'm not the right fit for you. mostly we are going to be a good fit.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't get too many clients that I say no to anymore.
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, I was still defining what my business was,
Right.
And now I know what my business is, and I'm very comfortable having these discovery calls. So it's easy for me to determine really quickly if someone's going to be a great match for me or not. And most of my clients now are coming from referrals. So they already have, referrals are great because once you start building the business, I'm doing it 9 years. So once you already have a business, you have repeat customers who are going to send you their cousins, aunts, uncles, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And that makes it easy.
And the same with me. And when we talk about resilience and job search, part of that is really determining what do you want to do? You've done this. Do you want to go back to that environment? Is there something that you didn't like? And maybe it's as simple as starting with a pros and cons thing, because so many people lack that clarity. And it isn't as simple as, well, I'm going to get another job. Sometimes it's really taking stock of things, and you don't know until you know. And I remember when I was in job search, one of the best parts about being in job search is I did not have to go to a job every day for a little while. I could kind of think about things. Now that worked for a couple of weeks or so. And then weeks became months and became longer. But at least in the beginning, you have an ability to clear your head. And that's the first step in job search, is having a clear focus on what you want to do.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Mindset is everything. And by the way, I think also flexibility comes into this whole resilience piece, because I had a client not too long ago who was adamant about being in, she wanted to help seniors. That was her thing. Mm-hmm. And we created the resume, all focused on senior help. I helped her with her LinkedIn and, got her situated with different groups that would help her, et cetera, et cetera. And just the other day, she emailed me and she said she got a job, a mm-hmm. fantastic job right in the area that she wanted, but not in the senior space. Okay. So it was more in the event space, which she also had a very long background in events. And so what she thought she really wanted, after a couple of months of trial and tribulation, she decided maybe I can go in a different direction and still help the population that she wanted to help. So I just think that's so great and fascinating. The ability to be flexible and not be so rigid in what you want. Because had she said, no, I will only look at these kinds of jobs, she might not have gotten that great opportunity that she's now thrilled to have.
And a lot of us have gone through many career changes. I mean, I've gone through so many career changes out of need and also out of interest, because I've changed over time and I've evolved and I've learned what I can and can't do. And that's probably one of the most important things. When I've lost jobs in the past and I've had to reconnect, I said, what did I not really like about that job? What is it that really I dreaded the Sunday night? What was it really? And you realize after a while, the things you dread are the easiest things to make peace with and leave. And it's not the things you realize. It's a mindset. And sometimes it's the company, sometimes it's you. Sometimes I had to do a little bit of a pivot on myself. And I think looking inward is so important too. I mean, there's all these different dynamics. And that's what's so great about this conversation, is it's not a tangible, this is what you have to do for a job. This is the specifics about the steps. It's about the touchy-feely stuff, almost, if you will.
Yeah. So knowing yourself is really critical. And so what you mentioned, I did when I created my company. I said, what about, I've been in HR for 20 some odd years.
Right.
Do I love everything about it? So not really. So if I never talk about another pension plan, I'm good with that. Right. Didn't love benefits. I was good at it.
Right.
I don't want to talk about it the rest of my life. Didn't love pensions, comp, not my favorite topic either. But you talk to me about learning and development, I can talk about that all day long. You want to talk to me about interviewing skills and recruiting, I can talk about that all day long. And so the things that drive you, the things that bring a passion in you, are the things that you should be looking for. Not the things that, do I have to go to work on Monday? You don't want to feel like that. There's so much time spent at work. Let's enjoy what we're doing. At least let's enjoy, because there will be issues that come up in work, because that's why they call it work. It's not play, it's work. So there's stuff that's going to happen. So you might as well be in an arena of things that you love to talk about, love to do. Know that you're feeling an impact. And I feel like I made the greatest impact in those 3 areas. It was learning and development, interviewing and recruiting and interviewing, and developing my team. So those are the things that I love, and that's what I grew the business on. And that, that's been successful for me. So I think for those of the people who are listening, think about what is important to you and what creates passion in you. What do you love to do, and what are you good at? Those 2 things may not be the same. I once had a client who was passionate about woodworking. He couldn't make a business out of it, right? And he was really good at IT. So we did like a mash, and we did, let's look for an IT job because that's going to support you, and then you can support your hobby of woodworking. And he made me a beautiful horse or something. That could have been his passion, but he wasn't ready to create that into a lifelong business.
I think for me, a lot of the volunteering I did at nonprofits, and I did it in my specific space. I'll tell you what the best part it was for me. It wasn't even the technical part. It was dealing with people. It was negotiation. It was conflict resolution, believe it or not, was a big one, because everyone, when you're volunteering for a company or an organization, everyone has their things that they want to do, and being able to be the grown-up in the room sometimes is very much underappreciated. So if you volunteer somewhere and you join a committee, yes, you'll learn skills that are relevant. You can put them on your LinkedIn and put them on your resume, but you will learn so much about working with people. You will look so much about your strengths and weaknesses, and in more ways than you ever realize. And it's an easy thing to do.
Volunteering is a great, great thing. People who are not working, who have time, there's so many organizations that would love to have your help. It's you can't even measure how much value there will be for you and for your organization. The time that you put in, the people that you meet, the interactions you have, the skills that you build, they're all fabulous, and all should be included in your LinkedIn profile to some degree, so that you can showcase what you've been doing.
So this is a question which just came up. How do you effectively move forward with a job search without losing your zeal or pursuing a minimum salary just for future income? And this happens a lot in a lot of places. People, first of all, your time is not wasted. And I think that's the mindset right off the bat. It's a learning experience. Yes, you could have, would have, should have, but it does no good to dwell on that. You're in the place you're in right now. And I think, for me, it's just about first of all, asking yourself really what you want to do, job search and position. What is it that you get excited about? A minimal salary just to pursue income may be needed. And I'm not trying to minimize that, but it's a lot harder to find a job when you're working at a job. So what do you think?
Okay, so Camille, what I'm hearing you say is that you feel like you've wasted 10 years of your life. I would dig into that, and I would like to reframe that. I would like to find out what you learned in those 10 years that maybe can help you going forward, right? I would hate to feel like I wasted time in my life by doing something that was not fulfilling. But even if you were doing something that you didn't love, you must have learned something during that period of time. And that's what I urge you to do. Create a list. I'm a big list maker. Right. Just write it down. Create some of the things that you learned, even if it was negative things. So one of the things that I learned is that I dealt with some very, let's call them aggressive and assertive senior managers in my lifetime as I was working in the corporate world. I learned that I was really good at negotiating challenging political issues. And I don't mean government political within an organization. Very good at navigating that and helping people to see how to come out of a situation, a conflict, stronger and better, and have a better environment. So while I did not enjoy maybe talking to them in the beginning, I understood that I learned after doing that I was pretty good at that. And people started coming to me and saying, Mindy, we have a conflict over here in this department. I'm going to bring them into you so you can work it out with them. And so what was most challenging for me in the beginning became a huge strength of mine. And so, Camille, I'm going to ask you to challenge yourself about what you learned in those 10 years. So she wrote down, she learned how to go to school and get a great job. She got leadership and customer service skills and actively listen. So those are good things. We're gonna focus on some of the good things that you learned for sure. And now, how can we morph that into your next job?
I love the word mentoring. Become a mentor. You now have your skills. You're now a mentor to other people in other industries. You have real world experience. I think it goes back to the reframing.
Yeah.
Because you're always learning. And part of the learning is, and this is another of my mantras, you may have lost your job and not your experience, you know, and that's a big part of it too. And these are not just buzzwords. We believe this, the two of us. I mean, we're not just saying this for the sake of saying it.
Oh, absolutely. And also think about the people that you met along the way.
Mm-hmm.
I am still in touch with so many people that I worked with so many years ago because there was huge value and we had a synergy. We understood each other. We come from the same place. So we value each other's contributions to the organization, although they were vastly different. And so I'm still in touch with those people. So I would urge you to go back through people that you haven't talked to in a while, that you maybe have good feelings about, and connect with them on LinkedIn. Connect with them and say, hey, remember when we both worked on ABC project? I know it was way back in the day, way before COVID, but we had that great rapport when we worked on that project. And I learned so much when I was working with you. Would you jump on a call for the virtual coffee with me? Great way to start networking and start building up that social support network that we all need to help us as we get through, difficult situations.
And you don't know what other people are going through too. We make assumptions. People are in different places now. I'm still close with people that I worked with 20, 25 years ago. Now we stay in touch about different things now, but we talk about dealing with stuff in the past, but we now can learn from it and we can enjoy it. Your coworkers are in some cases going to be some of your great connections in the future, maybe in a different way. And you don't want to lose sight of that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I caution you against staying so inside your own box that you're not open to trying new things. My client that I mentioned early on that is so strongly opposed to bridging his network, to building on what he had started when he was in college, to avoiding asking for recommendations. These are things that are not going to help you to grow. These are things that are going to keep you stagnant. And so we want to always, as human beings, that's part of what life is. Let's learn and grow every single day. And that's what drives me. I like to learn at least one new thing every single day. And what I love is if I learn it early in the morning, then I can coast the rest of the day. But every day I like to learn at least one new thing and then try and implement it. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. You might never use my water splash exercise again. I'm going to do it for you guys just to wake yourself up, do a little water splash. You may never use it again, but maybe someone will use it one day and say, hey, I do feel more, focused right now. So I'm going to use that again.
It's also important to admit that you need help and advice and support. There's no sign of weakness in saying, I don't know the answer to something. There's no sign of weakness or I don't know. Maybe it's a generational thing from when we were in meetings and we had to have all the answers, but there's nothing wrong with asking for advice and help. Nothing.
No. So vulnerability, what you're talking about is vulnerability, yes. Right? And for some people, they think that's a weakness, but I will tell you that it is really a strength to be vulnerable. And I help a lot of, let's call them supervisors. They're not quite at the manager level yet, but they're supervising a team of people. They're very opposed to showing vulnerability. They feel like they should know all the answers. And they feel like if they say, I don't know that answer, it will make them look like they're not as strong as they should be. But I guarantee you that when you say to someone, I don't know the answer to that question, but I'm going to find out the answer, I'm going to get back to you, that makes you look a lot better as a leader. So I am building these leaders and growing these leaders and developing these leaders to help them to have the confidence to say, I don't know that yet. I don't know. You know, I recently moved. A lot of people know that I moved recently, and I had a lot of workmen in the house before we moved in. And I was struck by how often I said, I don't know. I don't know what the wall color should be. I don't know where the bench should be. It's okay. That's not my area of expertise. It's okay to rely on people that you're hiring to give you the answers that you need. It's fine. And that's why what I love about coaching, that I sometimes have answers that people don't think about. I sometimes can help someone even hold a mirror up to themselves to see what they're missing. And that's exciting to me. That's what drives me.
So I want to thank you very much, Mindy, for the conversation today.
Oh, absolutely.
This was really great. I'm going to be joining you guys on Friday. I'm going to put in the chat afterwards some resources, a link to Brenda's call. I hope everyone here also connects with each other and stays in touch, because you have on this event, you have your first social network. You have a bunch of people here who share the same sort of passion, and that's the first step. You have that commonality, and it's all around you. And I wish you all the best, Mindy, in your new house and everything else that goes on. And I want to thank everyone for joining today. Have a great day, everyone. Stay safe, stay dry, stay cool, whatever's working for you.
Thank you, Kenneth, for this opportunity. Love talking about resilience. One of my favorite topics. Thank you, Joey and Linda and Lori and everyone who's on right now and everyone's going to see this, and Terrence. Thank you so much. And Camille, I wish you all the best. If you want to DM, reach out to me. I'm happy to brainstorm with you.
Likewise. Connect with me too. Reach out to any of us. We are happy to help in any way that we can. That's why we would like to pay it forward.
Have a good one, everyone.